Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And where are we going today, Erica? All right, to the pharmacy or drugstore?
Yes.
Or also in British English, sometimes people will say the chemist.
That's right.
So as you know, at the pharmacy, you get medicine, but there are certain vocabulary words that are related to this place that we need to learn.
That's right. So we're going to learn some vocabulary about medicine and also some interesting phrases.
So before we listen to the dialogue, let's take a look at vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
We're going to look at two words today that you'll hear in the dialogue. And the first one, milligrams.
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 Also, the abbreviation for this is mg.
That's right.
Okay. So a milligram is?
100th of a gram. So there are 100 milligrams in a gram.
Exactly. And it's very common to be used with medicine, right?
Exactly.
We buy medicine in milligrams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what's our next word?
Price check.
A price check.
A price check.
Okay. So at the pharmacy or at the supermarket, sometimes the cashier will ask for a price check.
And that is the action of checking to find out the price.
Okay, so a price check. With this, I think we're ready now to listen to our dialogue for the first time. And let's see what our shopper is buying at the pharmacy.
Hello, sir. How can I help you?
Yes, I need this prescription, please.
Let's see. Okay, so 50 milligrams of Prozac. Would you prefer this in capsule or tablet?
Capsules are fine.
Okay. You should take one capsule 3 times a day. Be sure not to take it on an empty stomach, and also don't ever mix it with alcohol.
Yes, I know. It's not the first time I'm taking this. Don't worry, I won't overdose.
Okay. Anything else I can get you?
Oh, yes, I almost forgot. Can I also get some eye drops and some condoms?
Sure. Darn, condoms aren't registered in our system.
Oh, well, that's okay. I'll get some later, thanks. Really, it's no problem.
Just hang on there a sec. Can I get a price check on Fun Times ribbed condoms, please?
Oh no, how embarrassing.
A little bit embarrassing that she asked for a price check on these condoms, right?
Yeah, but you know what? It seems like every time you have to buy something embarrassing at the pharmacy, there's a million people watching you.
Yeah. It never fails.
Yep.
Well, let's take a look at some of those words that we were talking about related to medicine in language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
All right, well, the first word, a prescription.
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 All right, so what is a prescription?
Well, a prescription is a note from your doctor explaining what medicine you need.
So this note from your doctor is necessary to buy that medicine, right?
Exactly.
Okay, prescription. Well, this shopper was getting some medicine and, well, the chemist or the pharmacist asked if he wanted it in capsules or tablets.
So let's look at those two words. A capsule.
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 Now, a capsule is small tube, right?
It's a form of a pill, and it's shaped like a tube with the medicine inside.
And it's covered in plastic, right?
Exactly.
Now, you swallow the capsule.
Yep.
And the tablet
is like a pill that is round and flat.
Okay. So tablet and capsule, both are the same thing basically, but just different presentations, different shapes.
Yeah.
It's easier maybe for some people to swallow a capsule.
You think so?
I don't know. I think so.
Well,
because sometimes tablets are a little bit like big circles and it's hard to swallow.
And I guess capsules are smoother.
Exactly.
But we're not pharmacists, so let's move on and focus on the language, which is what we do know about. So the pharmacist warned the patient not to take too much medicine, right? Because he might overdose.
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 Okay, so to overdose, like you said,
is to take too much medicine and get really sick or even die.
So if you overdose on medicine, it could be bad for you instead of good.
Well, obviously very bad.
And what about our last word for today?
Well, the shopper also asked for some eye drops.
Eye drops.
Eye drops.
So this is medicine for your eyes.
Usually liquid, like water that you put in your eyes.
So I think now with this medicine language clear, we can listen to our dialogue again, but it's going to be slowed down a little bit.
That'll help us understand these phrases just a little bit better.
Hello, sir. How can I help you?
Yes, I need this prescription, please.
Let's see. Okay, so 50 milligrams of Prozac. Would you prefer this in capsule or tablet?
Capsules are fine.
Okay. You should take one capsule 3 times a day. Be sure not to take it on an empty stomach. And also, don't ever mix it with alcohol.
Yes, I know. It's not the first time I'm taking this. Don't worry. I won't overdose.
Okay. Anything else I can get you?
Oh, yes. I almost forgot. Can I get some eye drops and, some condoms?
Sure. Darn condoms aren't registered in our system.
Oh, well, that's okay. I'll get some later, thanks. Really, it's no problem.
Dialogue.
Just hang on there a sec. Can I get a price check on Fun Times ribbed condoms, please?
So now it's time for us to take a look at some of the phrases that we saw in this dialogue in putting it together.
Putting it together.
We're going to look at 2 phrases here, and we're going to see how we can use them in different situations. The pharmacist warned, be sure not to take it on an empty stomach.
Okay, so
Be sure not to.
what does he mean by this?
He just means don't do this.
Okay,
So don't take the medicine without eating.
we can mix it up a little bit. Why don't we listen to some examples of how we can use this in different situations?
Example 1.
Be sure not to leave your bike outside or it will be stolen.
Example 2.
Be sure not to forget your umbrella. It's raining today.
Example 3.
I told him to be sure not to do anything stupid, but he did.
So Marco, why should we say be sure not to instead of don't?
I think don't sounds more like an order.
Okay.
Very direct. Maybe be sure not to is a little bit softer, a little bit more friendly. So be sure not to. Now, for our last phrase. So the pharmacist, in the end, wanted to check for the price, and he said, just hang on there a sec.
So that's interesting. Hang on.
Hang on.
Hang on.
Well, hang on. What does he mean by hang on?
He means
Wait. It's an informal way of saying wait.
exactly. It's also a little bit more friendly than just saying wait.
Right, exactly. And we can change the time a little bit, right?
So you can say hang on a second.
Or hang on a moment.
Hang on a minute.
All right.
What about hang on an hour?
Well, maybe if you're telling someone to wait for an hour, just hang on there for an hour. I'll be there soon.
Yeah, but I guess it's more common hang on a minute, hey?
Right, maybe for shorter periods of
Yeah.
time. Okay, so with these phrases, I think now we can use them in different circumstances, obviously not only in the pharmacy.
Yep.
And, well, let's listen to our dialogue for the last time.
Hello, sir. How can I help you?
Yes, I
Vocabulary
need this
preview?
prescription, please.
Let's see. Okay, so 50 milligrams of Prozac. Would you prefer this in capsule or tablet?
Capsules are fine.
Okay. You should take one capsule 3 times a day. Be sure not to take it on an empty stomach, and also don't ever mix it with alcohol.
Yes, I know. It's not the first time I'm taking this. Don't worry, I won't overdose.
Okay. Anything else I can get you?
Oh, yes, I almost forgot. Can I also get some eye drops and, some condoms?
Sure. Darn condoms aren't registered in our system.
Oh, well, that's okay. I'll get some later, thanks. Really, it's no problem.
Just hang on there a sec. Can I get a price check on Fun Times ribbed condoms, please?
So, with medicine, an interesting thing comes up, right?
That's right. A lot of people think that you eat medicine.
Okay, or drink medicine.
Yeah, but in English, you always take medicine.
Always take medicine.
Yeah, so you never can say, oh, I ate my medicine yesterday. It always has to be, I took my medicine.
Okay, so you take the capsules.
Exactly, or take the tablets.
All right. So you take medicine. Now, an interesting thing in the United States, for example, it's very hard to get medicine without a prescription.
That's right. So we always talk about prescription medicine and OTC medicine, or over-the-counter medicine.
So over-the-counter medicine is...
medicine you can just buy without that prescription or note from your doctor.
Okay, so for example, if you have a headache, you can go to the pharmacy and buy aspirin.
Yeah, and that's over-the-counter medicine.
But prescription medicine, you can't get it without the doctor's note.
Yes, and like you said, in America, you almost have to have a prescription for everything.
Which is strange because people can overdose on aspirin. So tell us how medicine and pharmacies work in your countries. And also, if you have questions or comments, our website, englishpod.com, is always open and ready for you.
Well, thanks for downloading this lesson, you guys, and until next time, goodbye.
Second paragraph in the dialogue.
All right, so
Dialogue. imagine this, you're in an English-speaking country.
Yeah.
And you need to pick up something for the pharmacy.
Right.
But maybe you're a little tripped up by some of the terms.
Of course.
Well, in today's deep dive, we are going to get you comfortable with all of the ins and outs of the pharmacy.
Wonderful.
We're going to decode those tricky medical terms and give you all the phrases you need to handle a visit to the pharmacy like a pro.
It's interesting you say that because even simple things like, buying an aspirin can be really different depending on where you are in the world.
Okay, let's unpack that a little. So first things first, you got your prescription from the doctor.
Right.
That's your ticket to get those specific medications right. But then there's this whole other category of over-the-counter medicine, things you can just grab off the shelf.
And it's so interesting how that line between those two categories can change so much between countries.
Okay.
For example, in the U.S., you might need a prescription for something like a higher dose of aspirin. Yeah. Which is surprising because in tons of other places, it's just readily available over the counter.
Wow, that is surprising.
Yeah.
Okay, so it just shows you how much those conventions can really vary.
Absolutely.
And speaking of specifics, our source material highlights milligrams as a key unit of measurement for medication dosage.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, while milligrams are pretty standard these days, it's wild that some regions still use the grain as a unit of measurement.
Really?
Can you imagine basing a dosage on the weight of a single grain of barley?
That's amazing. Talk about old school.
I love that. I'm going to remember that one. Okay, so we've got our prescription.
Right.
We understand the dosage. Now, what about the different forms that the medicine comes in?
Right.
So we've got capsules, we've got tablets. Any preference there?
Well, from a purely practical standpoint, it really just depends on the medication and how it's designed to be absorbed.
Okay.
But of course, some people find capsules easier to swallow than tablets.
I'm totally a capsule person myself.
But no matter what form it takes, you always have to be so careful with the dosage.
Absolutely.
Taking too much overdosing can have really serious consequences.
Of course. And that's where the pharmacist's expertise comes in.
Vocabulary preview.
They're not just there to dispense medication. They're there to advise you on safe usage, potential interactions, and make sure you understand how to take your medication.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Speaking of pharmacists, let's look at some of those helpful phrases that can make your pharmacy visit go smoothly. One that stands out from our source material is, be sure not to.
Right.
Which feels a lot friendlier than just saying, don't.
Exactly.
Dialogue.
It's subtle, but it makes a big difference. Imagine a pharmacist saying, be sure not to take this medication on an empty stomach. It's like a helpful reminder,
right,
rather than a stern warning.
It feels more collaborative.
Exactly.
I like that. And another phrase we often hear in pharmacies is, hang on.
Right.
Which is just a more casual way of saying wait.
It's all about creating that comfortable atmosphere. Yeah. If the pharmacist needs to check the price of something, they might say, hang on a sec, or hang on a moment while they look it up.
So much more relatable.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go any further, I
Yeah.
have to ask about something that I know trips up language learners.
Okay.
How do we talk about taking medicine in English?
That's a great point. So we take medicine.
Okay.
We don't eat it or drink it.
Yeah.
Even if it comes in a liquid or chewable form.
That's a good one to remember.
Yeah.
And speaking of interesting language choices, our source material includes this kind of awkward scenario where a customer asks for condoms.
Oh, yeah.
And the pharmacist needs a price check.
Wow.
On such a personal item.
Yeah.
I bet that was embarrassing for both of them.
It definitely highlights the potential for awkwardness in these everyday interactions.
Totally.
But it's also a good reminder that pharmacies are places where we encounter a wide range of human needs.
For sure. From the mundane to the sensitive. It's all part of the pharmacy experience. So it's all part of the pharmacy experience, and I guess it just goes to show that those pharmacy interactions can touch on some sensitive or kind of embarrassing topics.
It is fascinating how cultural norms play a huge role in what's appropriate to talk about in a pharmacy. Totally. In some cultures, it's totally fine to chat with the pharmacist about really personal stuff, while in other cultures, those conversations are kept super private.
It reminds me that even though we're focusing on English here, those cultural differences can really impact the whole pharmacy experience.
Oh, absolutely. For example, in some cultures, the pharmacist might be seen as more of an authority figure, someone that you go to for advice about all sorts of health issues.
Interesting.
In other cultures, that relationship might be more transactional.
Okay.
Focused mainly on just getting your meds.
That's a good distinction.
Yeah.
Never thought about it that way. Speaking of different cultural perspectives, let's go back to the topic of over-the-counter versus prescription meds. That line seems to get blurry depending on where you are.
What's interesting is that the distinction goes beyond just accessibility.
Okay.
It also reflects different societal attitudes about risk and self-medication.
Yeah.
In some countries, there's a much bigger emphasis on taking personal responsibility for your health.
Yeah.
So they might have more medications available over the counter.
So it's not just the medicine itself, but the cultural context around it.
Exactly. And that goes back to the role of the pharmacist.
Right.
In places where self-medication is more common, the pharmacist might be more of a teacher, helping people understand the risks and benefits of different medications.
Okay, so we've talked about cultural differences, prescription versus over-the-counter meds. And I'm curious, are there any other phrases or terms that might trip up someone trying to navigate a pharmacy in an English-speaking country?
One that comes to mind is side effects.
Yeah.
You know, it's important to know that medicines can sometimes have unexpected results or reactions.
Right.
Pharmacists are trained to explain these potential side effects.
Of course.
And they're happy to answer any questions.
Always a good reminder to ask questions if you're not sure about something.
Absolutely. And it's also super important to tell the pharmacist about any other medications you're taking or any allergies or conditions you have.
Right.
This helps them make sure the medicine is safe for you.
Speaking of safety, let's talk about another term that came up in our source material.
Okay.
Overdose. It's a really serious issue.
It is.
It really shows how important it is to follow the dosage instructions.
Overdose can happen when someone takes too much of a medication.
Right.
And that can have really bad or even deadly consequences.
Wow.
That's why pharmacists really emphasize taking medicine exactly as prescribed.
Okay.
And they can also help you if you're worried about a potential overdose.
They really are partners in your healthcare journey.
They are.
Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to go back to something we mentioned earlier. Those small differences in language that can make you sound more confident.
Right.
We talked about taking medicine instead of eating or drinking it.
Yeah.
Are there any other nuances like that you can think of?
One example is refills.
Okay.
In English, you might say, I need to get my prescription refilled, or can I get a refill on this medication?
So it's not just knowing the words, but using them naturally.
Precisely. And that comes with practice and exposure to the language.
This has been a really helpful conversation.
It has.
We've covered so much.
Yeah, from
Vocabulary
cultural
preview.
nuances to vocabulary.
It really has been eye-opening.
It has.
And I think our listeners are going to feel way more prepared to handle their next pharmacy visit.
I hope so.
But before we let them go, let's recap some of the key takeaways from our deep dive.
One of the most important things to remember is the difference between prescription and over-the-counter medications.
Right.
Understanding this can help you at the pharmacy and make sure you're getting the right medicine for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of getting the right medicine, we can't forget about dosage.
Of course.
Those milligrams are important, and it's super important to follow the instructions
Right.
to avoid problems.
Absolutely.
And if you ever have any questions about dosage or anything else about your meds, don't be afraid to ask the pharmacist.
Yeah, they're there to help.
They really are like partners in navigating the world of medication.
Yeah.
Speaking of partners, we talked about how those pharmacist-customer interactions can be a little awkward sometimes.
Yeah, like that condom situation.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that pharmacies are places where we see a whole range of human needs and experiences.
They are.
And those interactions might not always be perfect,
Right.
but they're about getting people the healthcare they need.
Absolutely. It's all part of being human.
And speaking of experience, I want to leave our listeners with this final thought.
Okay.
Even though we've focused on the practical parts of a pharmacy visit,
Yeah.
it's important to remember that health and medicine are really connected to culture and what people believe.
Right.
So as you keep learning English, pay attention to those subtle cultural things
Yeah.
and how they shape our understanding of health and wellness.
That's a great point.
So we encourage you to stay curious,
Yeah.
keep learning, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
It's how we all grow.
That's how we grow and understand the world around us.
Yeah.
Until next time, happy learning. Okay, so we're back for the last part of our pharmacy deep dive.
Yeah.
We've really taken a look at the language and the culture of something as simple as going to the pharmacy.
It's amazing what you find when you really look closely at this stuff.
Yeah, we've talked about vocab cultural differences,
right?
Even some of the awkward moments that can happen.
Exactly.
Dialogue.
It's been a real eye-opener.
It has.
And I think our listeners are really going to be ready to handle their next trip to the pharmacy.
I hope so.
But before we let them go,
right,
let's recap some of the key things we've learned.
One of the most important things is knowing the difference between needing a prescription and over-the-counter meds. Knowing that difference can make things easier and helps you get the right medicine.
And speaking of the right medicine,
yeah,
we can't forget about the dosage.
Of course not.
Those milligrams matter.
They do.
And you really got to follow those instructions.
Absolutely.
So you don't have any problems.
Right.
And if you have any questions about dosage or anything else about your meds,
yeah,
never be afraid to ask the pharmacist.
They're there to help.
They really are like your partners in navigating all of this stuff.
Absolutely.
And speaking of partners,
yeah,
we talk about how those pharmacist-customer interactions can be awkward sometimes.
Oh, yeah, like that condom thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It reminds us that
example.
pharmacies are places where we see all kinds of human needs and experiences.
They are.
And while those interactions might not always be perfect,
Yeah.
they're all about getting people the healthcare products they need.
It's all part of being human.
And speaking of experience, I want to leave our listeners with this final thought.
Yeah.
We focused on the practical parts of going to the pharmacy,
Right.
but it's important to remember that health and medicine are really connected to culture
Oh, yeah.
and people's beliefs.
Absolutely.
So as you all keep learning English, pay attention to those subtle cultural things
Yeah.
and how they shape how we think about health and wellness.
That's such a good point.
So keep being curious, keep learning, and never be afraid to ask questions.
That's how we grow.
That's how we all grow and learn about the world. Until next time, happy learning.